Hello again.
Hey.
And Merry Christmas, actually. This is the
Yeah.
Christmas week episode. Welcome to Spotlight on Home.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on this week's podcast.
All right, I'm Chris.
I'm Katie.
In case you've never met us before, and we're here to tell you all about our homeschooling adventures, how to help you and guide you along the way. If you have any questions, you can email us or message us on whatever platforms you choose. And today we're going to talk about
Seeing. Taking
Seeing.
time. Really, I guess it's like taking time to smell the roses. Would that be a good way to say it?
Yeah, well,
Teaching your kids maybe how to notice the details, how to pause, how to rest, how to slow down.
Well, we've
that a
just
good
started getting
slowdown?
some results on the podcast, and we're looking at what has had sort of resonated with everybody, and the atmosphere of
Creating a
education-rich
home.
atmosphere seems to be one of the more popular ones, and continues
Yeah.
in that way. So we're going to go over a few more ways in which it is either naturally done or you may have to dig in and create.
Yeah.
Neither one of which is wrong, because each one has its advantage and also a disadvantage. We are two different people. Obviously, if you're watching us on YouTube, you see, and you can hear us. Kate is a go-getter, mission accomplished kind of person.
I'm an achiever. Enneagram 3.
Yeah.
Wing 3.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Achiever.
All three
Yeah.
numbers were 3. She is goal oriented and a starter and all these things.
I'm a good executor.
She's a good executor,
I get
as we would
things
say out
done.
here in
Like,
Jersey.
I
And
guess,
New York.
like I can envision it and plan it and execute really very well. But details are not my strength. I
That-
kind of get frustrated in details and I find them tedious. It's probably why I don't like sewing. Like there's too many baking. I love to cook, but baking annoys me. I think it's all that.
Right.
It's
Right. Cooking and baking are two very different things. For those that don't know, we'll actually cover that down the line. I am details. I can get context. I took a sort of a personality kind of test, and my number one craved item is context, which is the details of all the stuff. And to the negative side is I can get lost in the details and either stall completely or sometimes get drowned in too many details.
Yeah.
And I don't know where to go sometimes with all of the info.
Right.
You're going to agree, so for. But no, I know it's very true. I have no problem with realizing that there's a lot of life that you can miss by just hitting the accelerator and reaching the destination. Now, I rode a motorcycle for many years, and often the mantra was, "It's not the destination, it's the adventure." And there's a lot to that. There's a lot to see.
And I'm like, it's only about the destination.
Yeah. I just want to get to my 4+ star place and
check
get
that
into the
box off.
jacuzzi. Yeah, and I'm like, well, what's up this road and what's down that road, and each child is different also.
Yeah, well, individuation is another strength of yours, which is good.
Right. I will address each child in their own thing.
And
Yes.
we totally need that. So it's like both strengths for us, for a large family. Like I can get stuff done that needs to get done.
Someone needs
for a
to
big
kick us in the
family,
butt and get us going.
And then you're so great with getting really nailing down what they need and who needs what and
Well,
those
when the
things.
kids ask us a question,
Do you want the mom answer or the dad answer?
or the dad answer, if you ask me something about the stars, you better sit down
Oh yeah.
and relax, and I'm going to tell you, in the beginning, God, and then sometimes the kids will stop me, so just give me the mom answer.
Yeah.
And it's over there, and this is where it is. And there's value in both, because, you're not going to have their attention for all of it. As smart as you might be in a subject, if your audience isn't listening, you're only going to frustrate them by overloading them. And there will be a day when they may come and ask you, and then the reward will be great. We have some, for instance, I don't know what your side of it is, but I have a little story. We have a church 1 mile from here, And it was so much fun because in the summertime there's a vacation Bible school, and I insist on walking the kids there.
It's 2 weeks long, baby.
It's 2 weeks. Yeah. So we make those trips quite a few times there and back, despite the heat. And one of the last years, was it last year?
Well, they didn't have it last year.
They didn't have it last year because of stupidity. But the year before, we were walking, and one of my kids goes, "Was that always there?" Whatever. I don't even remember what it was.
Was it like a shoe on a telephone pole or something random?
Something to do with the power lines and a ditch and some sort of flowers or whatever it was. And I said, yeah, that's always there. I said, but normally you're going past this spot at 40 miles an hour or more.
Or more.
And you just don't get a chance to see it. And then we also take 2 different routes there, the long one and the short one. Sometimes we'll walk there long because it's cooler, and we'll walk back on the short because it's, you're cooking by then and they've already had a long day. And the payoff in them saying, wow, I never saw this and I never saw that and I never saw that, is a pretty big deal. And this is a kind of a minor example, but you can do this, and this is part of that engagement that I have spoken so much about and we have both pushed. Start smelling the roses.
Literally. Well, Charlotte Mason, let me tell you what she says. So in her book, Home Education, Charlotte Mason recommends that a mother first guide her children in the art of seeing. You can direct their attention to notice details of anything, the details of anything. So it's really the art of seeing. And I guess that's really what this whole podcast is about, long story short. It's like you want to get in the habit, and you have to train yourself first, is to get your children the art of seeing, because really, no matter what they do in their life, they need to be able to notice the world around them. Kind of like the guy that never noticed the moon before. Like, he was not trained in the art of seeing. No.
He was trained in the art of doing.
Right. Well, he was an engineer. He was accomplished, right? But like, he never was trained in the art of seeing. So it's like, the whole idea is to allow your kids to be bored. It's okay. Allow downtime. Allow quiet. Allow the slowing down. And I think the week between Christmas and New Year's and this kind of Advent is a great time to maybe practice that, the art of seeing. So, even our 2-year-old, the little guy, like, we put up our Christmas tree and we decorated it. And then any picture books he sees, or any time we're out somewhere, or even if he sees something on TV, he's like, they have a Christmas tree like us. I'm like, yes, that's right. We have one too, But it's the art of seeing. It's the noticing these little things. And then, we'll take a walk. We have milkweed in the back of our yard. So in the fall, we'll go for like little walks just around the perimeter of the yard. And we'll look for the caterpillars. We'll look and see if there's any chrysalis being formed. And, it's amazing because
some of you might not know that that's a thing.
Yeah, but the coolest part is they'll find me now when they notice something. Like, just over the summer, there was ants. They must have been moving their locations or something, because there was an ant trail, whatever they call it. And we were like, well, let's see where it starts. And so we followed it all the way. It was so long, but we like kept looking and following it. But it's these art of noticing all these things around them, and why do you think they're moving? Where do you think they're going? And you're just planting these ideas of life into them. And it doesn't require like a curriculum book and these heavy lessons. It's just like naturally occurring where you are. And even if you're in the city and you don't have these nature walks you could take, there's art, there's museums, and we'll go into that too, but like there's, yes.
Yeah, I'm raising my hand for those who can't see. I work in New York City, and there's a ton of nature.
Sure.
Even in the cracks of the concrete, which
she
would not know.
Well, because, trying to avoid the hypodermic needles at this point, and the human feces off the sidewalk.
Okay, easy.
Well, it is New York. It
is New York, but there's tons of nature. As a matter of fact, I saw a hawk the other day, and it had a rat, which is distasteful. event overall. But this is a hawk in its classic country glory, cleaning up the city for us and enjoying a meal on its own. And I caught a picture of it, and it was funny because the guys I was working with weren't paying attention to that until I pointed it out to them. And guess what they all did? They all took out their phones and started taking pictures of it. Because, they had their head down, which is what they were supposed to be doing. I'm in a position where I can be looking around a little bit more. But it was even a marvel, amongst the city dwellers to see, first off, they've never even noticed a hawk before. That's just not really what you see around Manhattan and Brooklyn and things like that until you get to the water's edge for some of the more exotic birds. And then they were seeing it doing its job very well. And to see them marvel was cool because I do spend my life always pointing my children to various things. And what is nice about this is, so you follow them with the ant train and then a quick Google search, you can find out more about it.
Right.
And then when they see you do it and you did it together, they will do it. Now creating an atmosphere of continuous, and a habit of continuous learning, not just as a child, but through your whole life.
Right.
When I see something, I will not even, it's good to see it, but it is also better to investigate somewhat if you have the chance.
Well, and you think about it too, like you're training a habit in them to always notice details, right? And to notice, and then to be able to be curious and wonder and then explore and investigate, right? And then if you think about it as an adult, those are the character qualities you would want in anybody. Think of a doctor. Like you would want a doctor who is a lifetime learner, who notices the details, who is curious, who's going to research and who's going to investigate and look for patterns, look for,
looking for
all
patterns.
These little things. Like
that's what's going through my head now.
Yeah. Like you want those character qualities in anybody.
Right. Yeah,
and so it's cultivating them as a mom and a dad.
All the way from doctor to project lawyer, right? Project manager on a big construction site or a factory or something like that. You say, well, this is why people do things like that, and or well, this pattern maybe is unsafe, and you can call it to the proper attention to things like that. It makes you more valuable.
Sure.
In turn, making your children more valuable to love their world, and to love their neighbor.
Right. And the cool thing is, as a home educator, you probably, if you're anything like me, you grew up in a very quiet, natural setting. And I grew up
very much
in a little bit more of a hustle bustle setting. And that's probably why maybe there's some of why we are the way we are.
Right.
But I love that about you. Like you'll point out things to me that I really wouldn't notice, like birds flying in the air or like the tree outside that was growing stuff in November. The bush, the lilac bush.
Yeah, the lilac bush this year.
The tips of it were growing.
I don't know if we had mentioned it before.
So
we had the warmest October on record.
Yeah.
And
it was wet too, right?
Yeah, it was extremely wet, and the lilac bush
started to bloom.
The last 6 inches, all the way around the whole tree, bloomed leaves and fresh lilacs. They didn't have quite the smell, like that nice aromatic that it will give the yard, but almost the whole tree did it. And I was like, it was real Twilight Zone sort of
like,
moment.
Is it May or October?
Yeah, and so now I'm wondering if now I watch for a pattern.
Right.
Will it have a successful spring? Maybe it won't be as good next year. Maybe it'll be better. I don't really know. We had an insanely wet Northeast year, and then we got deluged right near the end. Everything flooded. Yeah. So I'm curious to see. And we talk about these things with our kids, and that is really important. We're not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to tell you what to do. We chose to never talk baby talk to our children.
We've said this before.
Did we? Yeah. I don't remember. It's starting to all blend up now. That should be a detail, right? That I remember.
Yeah,
but then again, all I have is like a cloud in my head. And it's all up there, but I don't know if I said it. And you'll see I'll start telling the same stories over and over again because I'm turning into an old man. But
welcome to my life.
Yeah.
It's good,
see,
though.
and the other side, now I completely forgot what I was saying.
Aw, that's okay. You were talking about something. I forgot too.
See? Oh, talk to your kids.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Whatever.
Don't talk baby talk. And actually, I believe.
Kids? What kids? No.
I believe we have gotten many compliments on how our kids speak early. And I don't think it was just people sort of blowing smoke our way. And I attributed it early on to us not talking baby talk because you're messing up the mechanics. Communication is huge, and to do it well and to have a good vocabulary means to convey the most amount of information with the least amount of effort. It's just not necessary to be so wordy unless you're trying to write a paper that's due tomorrow, and you need to get.
Or your mom is.
Yeah, I'm like, Mom, you better really.
You gotta beef up these words.
Fluff
Mom.
this up a little bit. What are you doing? I need 3 pages. Long story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go back to the prior episode if you'd like to hear that, or 2 episodes.
2
ago,
episodes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things, like, just to give you a glimpse into our life and what we did, just so we don't tell you things to do that we don't do ourselves. So, for example, this morning to train this habit, with 5 little boys that are really, oh my goodness, high energy. And we did it with our girls, but it didn't seem like I had to really be so intentional. With the boys, if I am not intentional, it doesn't get done. Like I have to be deliberate. So we have morning time every morning, 9 a.m. Everybody's up. We read a Bible verse. We're memorizing all together. It's a passage, usually 10 to 12 to 15 verses long, depending on what passage it is. Then I'll either read them a poem, or we'll study a composer. We'll study an artist. Maybe we'll study, as they get a little older, Shakespeare or Plutarch or something along those lines. And then I usually read a story about something interesting that's not very long, but like a little glimpse of an American, like right now, we're just reading like little stories about America during the Revolution, because that's the time period we're studying right now. So knowing that winter is in just a couple days and it's coming up, I got out a picture for them, and it's called A Winter Landscape with Skaters and a Bird Trap, which is by Peter Bruegel, the younger, who's Flemish. And it was from, they believe, I don't know, he was born in 1564, and he died, I don't know, around 1638. I guess they're not quite sure. But anyway, so it's an oil on wood painting, and so we looked at it. It's actually really quite lovely. You can just Google it and find it. But, there's skaters on the ice, and it's a winter scene, and it's a village town, and it's quite lovely. But, then while we were looking at it, I was telling them, oh, can you see the ice skaters? What about there's a slight cracks there's a circle cut out. Why do you think this circle is cut out? Why would they cut out a circle in the ice? So they gave me a couple of, like maybe they were thirsty or like different answers. And then I said, well, they fish. And so I looked up pictures of ice fishing, and I showed them what those are. And then I showed them little cabins that the ice fishing, sometimes they put on top of it. And
grumpy old man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then like what the fish would look like if they're pulling it up. They're like, wow, really? There's fish under there in the winter? They didn't. Right. It just was like not even something they even thought about. And then, we discussed like, hey, what do you think? How come you think nobody's around that fishing hole anymore? You notice the cracks in it. And I said, do you think they're nervous to be near it? Or do you think that they're just done fishing for the day and maybe they've got their fish and they're going to start a fire and maybe cook it? What do you think they're doing? Why do you think they would trap birds? How would that help? Like, so you're just getting them to notice like one picture and just looking at it and just trying to point out little details to them or asking them questions like, hey, can you find me, a little girl with red gloves on and like, find out. And then while they were looking at it, I played the Four Seasons Winter Allegro by Vivaldi and let them listen to it. And then the book that I got this out of is called Can You Hear It? And it's from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And basically they give you a picture and then music to go along with the picture. So tomorrow we'll do the Nutcracker. We'll listen to Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker, just the Sugar Plum Fairy section. And then we are going to look at a piece of art that has little Christmas trees and like little fairies on it. But anyway, so like, can you when you're listening to the music, can you hear how the violin, when the violin goes very quick, you can imagine like the ice skater on the ice, like shuffling their feet and moving very rapidly. Or what about, can you hear them fall down? And, can you hear the different instruments and like point them out to them? And like, can you hear maybe that represents the snow falling? And just like training their brain to get so much more, it's like richer and deeper than just looking at it and like, oh, that's nice, or just listening to it as background noise, right? But like really trying to draw them in and get them curious about what they're seeing.
And the piece of music, because you were playing it earlier today, I was doing something. I was getting ready to go out to work, and I didn't know the piece by its name, but you'll know it when you hear it. I don't know how to describe it, but you will. When you hear it, you'll realize it is used usually for some sort of peak product, a high-end, either crystal or car or whatever it is, in the commercials. And I'm like, oh yeah, because now I'm walking out the door. I already saw the painting because we were talking about it for the show earlier. And then I heard the music, and I was able to play the rest of the song as I was walking to the car. And I have that shared experience now with my children as I was doing my other portions of responsibility. And so there's another moment, dads that have a hard time connecting. Talk a little bit about what you're doing with the kids, and listen to it in the car, or spend 5 minutes with this painting, and that does the 5 minutes. You can do it while you're making your coffee in the morning or whatever.
In years past, what we've done is like in the beginning of December, we've listened to Tchaikovsky and the Nutcracker Suite. I've read to them the story of the Nutcracker Suite, and then we actually went and saw a play in a community theater, which is nice. And then the kids were able to they knew the play. A few of them were like, "Oh, Tchaikovsky is my favorite composer," which was really kind of cool. That'll make us geeks'
hearts swell.
But it was so cool because somebody overheard them saying it, and the kids were like 4th grade, 2nd grade, like they were little, and they're like, "Oh, I love Tchaikovsky," and a woman had overheard them mention that, and she's like, "That's amazing," like I cannot believe your 8-year-old says that, or your 10-year-old says that. Like, that's crazy. I've never heard of a kid say that before. And I'm telling you right now, we are not geniuses. Like, we're not.
No, my shoes are dirty.
We put the J in genius, if you know what I'm saying. There's it's not like our. I think combined, we still didn't get like a perfect score on our SATs.
The fanciest I get is Perrier seltzer with apple cider,
and he calls it Perrier.
Perrier, right? Because look at I'm wearing the flannel.
Oh, you're so funny.
Usually I got the hair done today, but I was out. So I threw my hat on.
Yeah, so we were definitely not like elitist.
We're not
at all, but we're trying our best. And I think no matter where you are or what education you've gotten,
we're the swankiest people in the trailer park.
Yes.
So
so you can totally bring your A game, especially when it comes to your kids. But like that's kind of the part of homeschool that's really awesome is you get to learn and have the education you probably were never given yourself. I never heard of Vivaldi before homeschooling. I have never heard of Plutarch before homeschooling. I maybe knew Romeo and Juliet, but like just because it was a popular movie, it wasn't.
It was forced on me from my English class, but I was not taught to appreciate it. I was forced to read it, and it was very, very different. So these things are awesome opportunities.
Yeah, these are just to get you. You don't have to do this. No. This is like if it doesn't suit your family.
There's more books too.
Oh yeah, so let me go a couple. Okay, so that one was "Can You Hear It?" Right, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Then I have a few other ones that are really kind of fun. It's from it's called "Come Look with Me" from the World of Art. And what they do, there's a few books in the series. One is Enjoying Art with Children by Gladys. These are all by Gladys Blizzard. There's Animals in Art, and there's Exploring Landscape Art with Children. And so you can pick one up. What the nice thing is like you can look at a picture. It will tell you like who painted it, who was the artist, what type of art was it, when was it created, where is it located, and what size it is, which is really neat too. Because a lot of times if I do a piece of art with my children, we'll study for 12 weeks for about 12 weeks, we'll study an artist and we'll look at one painting each time, and I'll tell them the dimensions, and I'll say, you know, oh, it's about the size of the window, you know, because they only have it on an 8x11 piece of paper, you know, so I'm like, no, it's actually the size of this window, or you know what, it's actually really much smaller than this. And so it shocks them sometimes, the actual size of the paintings.
I have a story about that, actually. I remember in, I think it was junior year English book, there was a picture. It must have been literally, I don't know, 1 inch by 2 inch, maybe 3 by 4, in my English book.
Right.
And it was called the Grand Canyon. And I'd never seen the Grand Canyon till many years later. The actual Grand Canyon, that is. And I forget, I maybe I went down to visit a friend in Philadelphia, and I went to the art museum. And this painting was like 10 by 20 feet. It was enormous. I hope I'm not exaggerating. It was the size of our bedroom wall, maybe even larger. Yeah. And I was like blown away, because I remember it was one of the first times in my life when I saw that painting in my English book. I said, but I'm going to call that my favorite painting. And I had no idea that this thing had a magnificent grandeur that of size. And then when I saw it, I was really blown away. And I'd say it's the first time in life I was like moved at the reality of certain art.
Yeah.
I do find a lot of modern art to be baloney, to be quite honest.
Well, modern art is terrible.
Modern art is, it's not art, frankly.
No.
There's
But
no
it's
beauty in it,
subjective.
but
Yeah,
that
there's
is
no skill.
subjective. Well, it's trash. But
Right, I know. Well, we can talk about that too.
That's another story.
But we usually study the classics anyway.
Yeah.
But so anyway, there's just some books there, and then Simply Charlotte Mason. They have, if you go to just simplycharlottemason.com, they
I love
have
these. These are fun.
picture study portfolios where I love them, and I think they're worth the investment. Well, for us, we have a lot of kids, so we'll use them, but we'll study. They give you a whole booklet specifically on an artist, and then they tell you exactly how to do a picture study. It's like a feast for your eyes, and then you know how you could talk about it, and how to notice, and how to see, and then how to pick out and what kind of questions to ask. But some of the questions are so cool. And not necessarily just from that one, but, like, do you think the scene is warm or cold? What kind of mood or feeling do you have when you see it? There was one, like, can you notice different shades of the same color? Like, pick one thing to look at. How many different colors can you notice in that one brush stroke? Like, really kind of teaching them to see. Instead of just looking at it and moving on, it's just getting them to notice. But you can do it with anything.
It's kind of like what Bob Ross would talk to you about while he's painting.
Yeah. And like, but it doesn't even have to be art or music. I mean, those things just make life richer, and lovely, right? Especially, I think, the Lord brought order out of chaos. And even like the Secret of the Kells, like that whole story where the Kells were just continually being attacked by Vikings, and they were making the illuminated Bible, but it was their way of like sticking a fork in the ground and being like, no, or putting a stake in the ground and being like, no, I'm going to create beauty even in this darkness. And I think too with COVID, it's like, you know what? I am putting a stake in this ground, and I am going to bring out the beauty in this chaos. I'm going to show my children what is good, what is true, what is beautiful. This is the line I'm drawing in the sand. This is how I'm going to get them to notice. This is how I change culture. This is how I affect and be effective in my world is by training this. And it starts right in your home. It starts at your dining room table. Right. And it starts with like just training this simple habit. And you need to train it, I think, in yourself in order to train it into your children. And I am not naturally a seer, right? I'm a doer. You are a seer.
I'm a seer.
And so you compliment me in that way, and I appreciate it. Like, you get me to slow down. Like, even little things. Like yesterday I was baking. I baked homemade bread, and I was making cinnamon bread. And, I was activating the yeast, and it was like looking at it and like, okay, it's starting to foam. And like that in itself, you could show the kids, like, look, I'm going to put this dry powdery stuff in and watch what happens when it starts to get warm and wet. And, you have some little bit of sugar and it starts to activate. Look at how foamy it gets. Like, there's so many things, So even if art and music isn't your jam and you're like,
Right.
ugh, I
Yeah,
can't
sure.
be bothered with that. Like find what is, and then get your kids to notice it and to pull them out that way. You know, take your personality and adapt this to you. Make it applicable to you and your budget and your, you know, your likes and interests.
And what will happen here eventually, because what this requires is you to have conversations with your kids. And I'd say maybe even initially,
Might be painful.
that
just
might
saying.
take a lot of that might take a lot
It
of
takes
you.
intention.
But that's how you accomplish this.
Yeah.
Hey, look at the east, or hey, look at the sky. What do you? Why do you think those clouds look like that? How come that guy's lawn is greener than mine? You know, how come? You know, why? Oh, the ground is strange over here. Is there rocks under it? You know,
I was gonna say, look, the marker comes off your leg so much easier than the pen you wrote on it does.
right? There's
There's so much
there's
learning.
science there, and there's lessons in how to remove it there. But talk, not, you know, it's easy to have a kid, you know, ask you a question and you just want to move on.
Yeah. Oh, for me, that's
big.
I struggle with that because
Right.
in my head, and I know moms, you could probably relate. It's like the laundry's going in right now. I got to go get dinner again.
Yes,
like
yeah,
right
that
now,
relates to
okay,
that.
we're recording this. It's 5:00. Okay. And so it's like, okay, no, as soon as we're done here, I got to get up and I got to go put the chicken in the oven. I have to make sure the laundry is done and in the dryer so we have clean sheets by the time we go to bed. You know, so it's like,
And I'm wondering, is that little hiss noise from the computer fan going in the microphone? Is this the peaking with the microphone? Is the microphone too close? Are we in frame together? You know, where she's got all these
Oh,
other
yeah.
thoughts out there,
So
and
for
I'm
that,
right
yeah.
here. Details, what's
Yeah.
going on?
I'm already
She's already gone.
mentally.
She's already downstairs.
I'm doing the laundry in
Right,
my head.
right.
If only it was that easy, I would.
Right.
But you know, like it. But then when they want to ask a question, it's like, oh, hold on 1 second, let me go do this, or this, right? Like I have so many things going on in my mind, but it's like, wait, I have to slow down. I have to answer their questions. I have to give them my eyes, right? Like I have to make eye contact with them, make them feel like what they're telling me or asking me is important and valued. And because those seeds and ideas, like when they're asking them, that shows they're thinking and they're thinking people, and you never know what response you give is going to elicit, you know, more questions or a whole trajectory of information that they want to learn about. So it's like you owe them that, I feel.
I would say this: pay attention. You'll know what kind of thinker or how much they understand of a concept by what questions they're asking.
Yeah.
That you'll see how deep of an understanding they're getting, because the question will start to not only be like, oh, that's pretty good, but you might not even know the answer. And then it's like, all right, well, let's go together.
Yeah, it's a great question. Let's think
Then
of it.
you're gonna, by doing this, you're going to build a very different type of relationship than this kids versus parents
Right.
that you get from classical public or standard structured education outside the home. It does become a versus. I mean, there is always going to be some angle of that. It's kids versus parents, you know, from sibling groups to parents, just because, well, we want our freedom and we're the ones keeping the fences around you safe. There's going to be some of that. But the relationship, I know it's a weird controversy, like my kids aren't my friends. You know, we
are their advocates.
We
And I
are
think
their
that
advocates, and you
talking
can.
to them becomes that.
Over the years, I've viewed that in a couple of different ways, and I have come to the conclusion now that yes, you can be the friend to your children, because if they're going to be adversaries all the time, they're going to be an adversary when you need them, when you're too weak.
You can be friendly to
You
your
can
children.
certainly be
You know?
friendly.
Love your neighbor. They are your neighbor.
And we can wrap this up on a funny story that I have.
Okay. Go ahead.
What?
I'm just nervous anytime.
It doesn't have to do with you, but you were there,
Oh.
and all the parties will remain nameless just to protect the identities of the guilty. We one time, I love the Museum of Natural History, and I love museums in general. So when I go to a museum, I am the kind of guy that wants to read every plaque because I'm taking the time to go there. For me, it is a den of study.
Yes.
It's not just an attraction.
Here's the kicker too. We went before we even had kids. So we actually could have taken time. Like when we go
I
places
had
now,
every intention of taking time.
I know. Well, we could have, but the other
And we've been
party
talking
didn't want
about
to.
this for 20.
But it's kind of
6
funny
years or something.
thinking about it too. Like we really could have really taken our time, but it was like
I still lament
We're-
the whole event.
know you
but
do.
so
and we never got back there. I think didn't we? We went with the kids.
we did with the kids, but that's another.
Yeah, well, we run through it.
That's
when we
another.
have
Yeah,
kids.
I mean,
It's like,
you pick up what you can because you understand how old your kids
Yeah, we
are.
have, like, an attention
and now, yeah, you got to work. Any hike only goes as fast as this weakest hiker. Anything like that is always limited by the weakest of the group. So we went, and I remember the other couple that was with us. They were arm in arm. It was kind of adorable. They were walking arm in arm, and basically it was almost like a race to the finish.
They walked down the hallway of the.
They just kept leaving the rooms, and I couldn't really even get started. Then I was getting a little annoyed, and I'm like, what are they doing? Why are they here? To check the box off.
Right.
We saw
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Oh, we
But-
went to
but-
the museum, but they didn't actually. They didn't.
There was no benefit to it.
experience it, right? Like so,
Right.
they went, but they didn't experience it.
Right.
It's different.
The Hayden Planetarium, is it the Hayden Planetarium still? Whatever. I remember when it got revamped and they have this single gigantic sphere and they make analogies to its size. If this is the size of a water droplet, then this sphere over here is the size of an atom. And then if this is a basketball, then this is the size of a planet. And I mean, I can listen to that stuff and sit there and take that in all day long. And I can read every plaque. There's a timeline, depending on what timeline you actually believe, as far as New Earth and Old Earth. But there's a timeline with an explanation about how the universe formed the way it appears. Well, I could read that. I could spend all day just in that section. Let's forget about the lizards and all the other things that are there. They flew through.
He's still mad about it.
I am a little chapped about it, and
Oh,
I'm
it's so
literally
funny.
got to be pushing 26, 27 years ago. It just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Why drive all the way to New York City and race through? I never understood.
Something to do.
That's what was to do. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, check the things.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that was it.
All right.
I guess it wasn't that funny.
That's okay.
But
anyway,
no,
take
man.
time. Now your blood pressure's
now my
up.
blood pressure's back up.
Reminisce.
Yeah.
Brought you right back.
Right.
Right back to that bad day.
My face is red. I can see it. I can see it on the camera.
All right. Well, we'll
look.
end it.
We'll end it there.
Head over, get on, grab our 10 tips to start homeschooling now if
Right.
you haven't yet. We've got some pretty cool stuff coming out for you, and then you'll be on our mailing list, so you'll be able to get all of our cool stuff that we're working on hard behind the scenes for you to experience. So if you head over to spotlightonhome.com, you can check us out, and you can grab our free PDF printable to help you with your homeschooling. In the meantime, have an awesome week. We probably won't chat with you until after Christmas. So
Yeah.
have an awesome.
Yeah, we'll do
awesome
a Christmas week one.
Merry
Christmas,
Christmas.
and we'll see what's to say then. we have to plan that one yet.
Well, I got some.
But we wanna
I
be
got
there
some
for
stuff
ya.
up here.
We wanna be
See,
there
this
for
is
ya.
where the executor thing
This
comes
is
in.
where the executor is.
I say, okay, I have
Right.
10 things we could talk about.
Good, yeah.
Which one do you want to go deeper on?
Right.
And then
Very good.
that's how we do this.
Very good.
Very-
Everybody, Merry Christmas, and we'll
Here,
see you then.
guys. Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye.